Proverbs 8. Does not wisdom call? Does not understanding raise her voice? On the heights beside the way, at the crossroads she takes her stand. Beside the gates in front of the town, at the entrance of the portals, she cries aloud, "To you, O men, I call, and my cry is to the children of men. O simple ones, learn prudence. O fools, learn sense. Hear, for I will speak noble things, and from my lips will come what is right. For my mouth will utter truth. Wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are righteous. There is nothing twisted or crooked in them. They are all straight to him who understands, and right to those who find knowledge. Take my instruction instead of silver, and the knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than jewels, and all that you may desire cannot compare with her. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and I find knowledge and discretion. The fear of the Lord is hatred of evil, pride and arrogance and the way of evil, and perverted speech I hate. I have counsel and sound wisdom, I have insight, I have strength. By me kings reign, and rulers decree what is just. By me princes rule, and nobles, all who govern justly. I love those who love me, and those who seek me diligently find me. Riches and honor are with me, enduring wealth and righteousness. My fruit is better than gold, even fine gold, and my yield than choice silver. I walk in the way of righteousness, in the paths of justice, granting an inheritance to those who love me and filling their treasuries. The Lord possessed me at the beginning of his work, the first of his acts of old. Ages ago I was set up at the first, before the beginning of the earth. When there were no depths I was brought forth, when there were no springs abounding with water. Before the mountains had been shaped, before the hills I was brought forth, before he made the earth with its fields, or the first of the dust of the world. When he established the heavens I was there, when he drew a circle on the face of the deep, when he made firm the skies above, when he established the fountains of the deep, when he assigned to the sea its limits so that the waters may not transgress his command, when he marked out the foundations of the earth. Then I was beside him like a master workman, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing before him always, rejoicing in his inhabited world, and delighting in the children of man. And now, O sons, listen to me. Blessed are those who keep my ways. Hear instruction and be wise, and do not neglect it. Blessed is the one who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, waiting beside my doors. For whoever finds me finds life, and obtains favor from the Lord. But he who fails to find me injures himself. All who hate me love death.
Proverbs 8 launches off with a rhetorical question. Does not wisdom call? At this point, it should already be obvious that God's wisdom has been calling, shouting in verse 3. And to whom? Verse 4. To you, you men, and the sons of men, all of mankind. And specifically in verse 5, those who can identify as simple and foolish. Lady Wisdom is calling the fools to listen to her in verse 6. Why? She says, "For I will speak noble and upright things." So in contrast, her words are not foolish. Verses 8 through 10, she says, "The words of my mouth are righteous, straightforward, and they come with discipline and knowledge." If we can admit that we are fools who need wisdom, then all this is indeed more rewarding than silver or gold or pearls. Verse 11 says, all desirable things cannot compare with God's wisdom. But what authority does this wisdom have? Well, she appeals to God, the highest authority. Verse 13, the fear of Yahweh is to hate evil. And what's the evil specified here? Pride and arrogance, particularly when expressed by the fool's mouth. In contrast, verse 12 has the wisdom of God declaring, I, wisdom, dwell with prudence. Verse 14, counsel is mine, might is mine, I am understanding. Compared to the infinite wisdom of God, can anyone say that they have any real knowledge or discretion? If you claim to be any more than a simple fool, then you're guilty of being prideful and arrogant. If any of your words conflict with the absolute words of God, then your mouth is perverted and you're susceptible to God's hate. And it doesn't matter if you're royalty. Verse 15, God's wisdom says, by me kings reign. And verse 17, by me princes and nobles rule. God's wisdom must be the standard by which all rulers judge righteousness. God is the authority of authorities, the King of kings. He's the supreme royalty. Then wisdom reminds us in verse 20 that she's righteous and also that she's rewarding. Verse 21, to give those who love me an inheritance of wealth. Notice that she's also relational. Those who love me. Verse 17 also speaks of those who love me. And she says, I love those who love me. So wisdom loves, and she can be loved. And we see that her greatest relationship is with the Creator. Verse 22, Yahweh possessed me at the beginning. Verse 27, when He established the heavens, I was there. Verse 30, I was beside Him as a master workman. And what's that relationship like? Verse 30 again, I was a daily delight, rejoicing always before Him. This is a relationship of joy and delight. Verse 31, rejoicing in the world, His earth. My delight is in the sons of men, which includes you and me. So what's our application? Well, given that God's wisdom is perfectly righteous, generously rewarding, supremely royal, and always rejoicing, we see in verse 32, so now, O sons, listen to God's wisdom. Keep her ways. Verse 33, when God's word speaks, you're required to hear. Verse 35, you must find God's wisdom in order to find life. This isn't optional. Verse 32, this is the only way to be blessed. Verse 34, how blessed is the man who hears me. Verse 35, this is the only way to obtain favor from God. Otherwise, your default alternative is described in verse 36. But he who sins against me does violence to his own soul. Verse 33 had already warned us not to neglect God's word. There is no neutral state. Verse 32, you either listen to God's word or you sin against Him. Verse 36, you either love God's wisdom and find life or hate God's wisdom and love death. So even though we're simple and foolish in light of God's absolute wisdom, we can still join together in rejoicing in our royal Creator who offers righteousness and rewards for those who listen to His call.